Thank you, everybody, for joining. Really deeply appreciative. We have an incredible opportunity to hear from Sasha Ahuja, who actually has been a critical leader moving the Equal Rights Amendment Prop 1 in New York State. Yes, we must pass it. And to do that, we need all of us because it's critically important. I mean, you are already doing a lot of voting related election related work. And I know that we are uber focused on our national elections. Evidently, it is really about our lives. But here in this state, we have an incredible, I'm going to say, opportunity and challenge. And with that, let me give you, Sasha, the opportunity to talk with us and take us to another level on Prop 1.
Of course.
As you can tell, everybody here is already an activist, right?
Yes, that I know about the New York Women's Foundation Board and alum, so thank you. First, thank you all for all that you're already doing. I know folks are making calls, sending texts, knocking on doors, doing everything possible in the next 12 days to be able to get a huge job done. And so thank you for all that you're already doing. And let us also not forget that we have a major fight here in New York to codify the strongest possible protections for all of our communities in our state constitution. I know many of you. My name is Sasha Ahuja. I am a friend of the New York Women's Foundation, grateful for the many years of leadership of Anna and Camille and the entire team, and appreciate sharing a little bit of space with you all today. So big picture, in addition to voting for candidates up and down the ballot in New York voters will have an opportunity to flip their ballot and vote yes on Proposal 1. Proposal 1, we are calling it an Equal Rights Amendment. That's what it was called when Assemblymember Seawright and Senator Kruger passed this measure right after the Dobbs decision. But let's talk about what Prop 1 is and what it does. Prop 1 does two very important things. First, it protects the right to abortion here in New York State in the strongest possible way by codifying that protection in our state constitution. And importantly, Prop 1 takes an extra step. It closes loopholes in our state constitution so that no New Yorker can be discriminated against because of who they are, whether they're a person with a disability, whether they're LGBT, whether they're an older adult. Their rights will be protected for the long term in our state's strongest founding document, our state constitution. Now, this approach is a little bit different. We are doing something different than the 9 other states, in addition to New York, that are putting abortion on the ballot. We're actually saying that we need to win this fight in a different way. We need to make sure that if we're bringing the issue of equal rights to voters, it is reproductive health, it is access to contraception, it is access to IVF, and it is all of the other rollbacks that we are seeing in state after state and court after court that are rolling back all of our rights. And we need to approach this fight in a different way by asking voters, shall we codify the protections that we already have on the books, the common sense laws that already protect New Yorkers, because we have fought long and hard, thanks to the leadership of so many of you, for robust civil rights and human rights protections in the law. But if the overturn of Roe v. Wade taught us anything, it's that those rights can be rolled back at any time. Now, Ayung said they live out on Long Island, where the politics are not so great, as we know. The reality in New York is that we have seen a tremendous shift. In 2022, you all know this story, we saw a 14-point swing to the right in our state. A very clearly anti-abortion extremist came within 5.5 points of taking that governor's mansion. And of course, as we know, we became the national embarrassment of the country when 5 Democratic seats swung to the right. And now we are sending the largest delegation of anti-choice extremists to Congress, larger than we have in decades. And so there's been a ton of infrastructure that's being built here in our state because the benefit of basically functioning in a almost one-party system for many years is that we didn't have to build anything. We didn't have to do anything to convince voters, but we had a major wake-up call in 2022. And so immediately following the Dobbs decision, that decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, you all felt it in that moment. We knew that this moment was coming. We in the movement had anticipated this moment for a long time. It was no surprise for all of us who were trying to wave the white flag and say, hey, folks, we have got to make sure we actually protect abortion at the federal level. We took that moment for granted, and then we saw the repercussions of the Trump administration. Justices overturned what we long thought was legal precedent in this country. And the reality is that New Yorkers here were shocked. Folks realized that our rights were not as safe and as protected as we thought they were. And so since the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, we've seen 7 out of 7 states put abortion on the ballot, even in the toughest political conditions, in states like Ohio and in Michigan and in Kansas and Kentucky and Montana, and then some friendlier states like California and Vermont. However, none of them have taken the step that we are taking now to actually ensure that all of our rights are protected. Those states have simply put the question of abortion to voters. And we know voters agree all across this country that at the state level, if the Dobbs decision said, bring the question back to the states, voters agree in states all across the country that we should protect abortion. Now, we in New York are one of 10 states this cycle, as I mentioned, that's putting abortion on the ballot. It is an incredibly crowded and incredibly noisy moment. We anticipated this, which is why over a year ago, we pulled together a coalition, not just of reproductive health organizations, but of civil rights groups and immigrant rights groups and organizations all across the state to build what is now a 500-strong coalition of organizations all across the state of New York to talk to voters in their communities about the fact that their rights, their freedoms, their bodies, their lives, their futures are on the ballot. Now, we don't live in a state that does ballot measures often, and we certainly don't do them particularly well. In 2021, as many of you know, we had a series of voting rights and democracy measures on the ballot. And we absolutely took that fight for granted. We shrugged our shoulders. We didn't build a campaign. We said, of course, New York voters are going to support voting rights and democracy. And as you all know, we lost that fight. Why did we lose it? One, there was no counter. There was no campaign that was talking to voters across the state in November of 2021 when these measures were on the ballot and said, hey, these really important things are on the ballot. And importantly, in the final weeks before the election, one single Republican billionaire dumped $4.5 million of his own personal wealth into the New York State Conservative Party, into the housekeeping account, an account that is very hard to track, and tanked those voting rights and democracy measures. Now, we built this campaign from scratch over a year ago. Certainly, we're able to lean into lots of the infrastructure of our existing organizations. But truly, it's a new muscle to talk to New York voters about a measure on the ballot. They don't really know what we're talking about. They, are confused. They're not often, unlike our friends in states like California and Arizona, and even in Florida, where there are often measures on the ballot, we're actually asking New York voters to do a new thing. Now, a couple of important things about what has happened in the last couple of days, which makes this conversation so timely. I'll be honest with you. I have been trying to shake down the trees for over a year. I have talked to every national donor, every national organization, every group here in New York that's investing big, all of the organizations and entities that are pouring money into the battleground districts. They just haven't taken this fight as seriously as they should. They said, of course, you're putting this thing on the ballot. Certainly, this will pass. Absolutely. I will tell you, we have had the deck stacked against us from the beginning. One, folks have been confused and said, why is this measure appearing on the ballot? Two, folks have said, what's happening with the state party and what are they doing? And three, folks have said, this is a surefire win. Abortion is top of mind for New York voters. And I have said, my friends, I know you don't think that there is an opposition campaign. I know you don't think that they are going to come for us. I promise you, in the final weeks, they will come for us. And on Monday, this week, the opposition campaign, there are 3 that have filed against us. They've spent very, very little, almost no money so far. And on Monday, an opposition campaign that calls themselves the Vote No on Prop 1 Committee just launched a $4.5 million TV buy against us. They are up on cable and broadcast and on radio all across the state, starting this week, to push a vote no message. And they're specifically leaning into the issues that are driving a wedge across the electorate. I'm going to drop a link in the chat that is the opposition's brand new ad. It is called "The Border is Broken and Prop 1 Could Make It Worse." Here we go. Exactly what we thought they would be saying. And so we are in a position now where we are trying to catch up to where they are. Now, we're up on TV with our own response ad. Those ads were live today, in fact. That is essentially a rebut to this allegation, a rebut to what they're saying, saying this is, and let me be clear, everything that is being said, you'll notice, they're citing opinion pieces from the far right opposition. They're saying absolutely nothing that is factually true, but as you know, the other side doesn't care about facts. And the reality is that whether it's LGBT rights or rights for immigrant communities, as you all know just as well as I do, these issues are driving a serious, serious wedge among our supporters, among people who are with us all the time, and certainly among people who are with us on reproductive rights and abortion. So I'm doing everything possible in the next 12 days to close the fundraising gap, to raise the resources to make sure we can essentially chase the opposition. Now, I had a lot of dreams about the kind of campaign that we could have built through this fight, and say, can we talk about repro in a brand new way? Can we introduce a new lens to be able to talk about this issue? And I know that because of all the noise, because of lots of national attention, and because of a lot of defensive ballot fights, our friends in Florida are putting an abortion ballot measure to voters. They're trying to push back against a 6-week ban in Florida that is currently on the books. Missouri has a restoration, has an all-out ban on abortion and is trying to restore access to 12 weeks. Nebraska has 2 competing ballot measures and has an all-out ban on the books. Arizona is trying to restore access to what was true before Roe was overturned, because they have to fight that law from the 1800s that rolled back access. So there are like serious, serious fights on repro. Folks are saying, in New York, why do we even need this? Why do we need to make sure we're winning? We need to win in this way because we need to demonstrate that, one, a state that still is, in spite of the shift, a blue state, can actually win this fight in a different way, and to actually pave the path for how we need to win the federal fight. Now, I worked at Planned Parenthood prior to taking this role to run this New York campaign. And I was there, and I know this call is being recorded, and that's okay. I was there when Dobbs came down. And I will tell you, from the national organizations, outside of a Democratic trifecta, there is no plan and no pathway to restoring access to abortion outside of winning these fights at the state level. And my friends, if we are going to even attempt to win this fight and make sure we're bringing LGBT communities and immigrant communities with us, because those communities are bearing the brunt of the attacks that we are seeing, we have to win this fight in this way, in the way that we're fighting here in New York, by ensuring that our state constitutions protect us in the strongest possible way. Now, Minnesota and Oregon and Illinois are looking at almost identical measures on their ballots to appear in 2026, actually taking this framework, an equality framework, a framework that leaves nobody behind, that includes all of our communities and puts that issue to voters. And the reality is we need to meet voters where they are. We're leading on abortion. We're leading on protecting you against discrimination by the government. That's our message. And as you'll see, even as evidence from this ad and any of the other campaign committees that have filed against us, they're trying to drive a wedge, talking about every other issue under the sun, truly making political pawns out of LGBT kids, trying to drive a wedge in that way, talking about the influx of people who sought asylum in New York and trying to connect us to that fight. Prop 1 has nothing to do with federal immigration law. Prop 1 changes absolutely nothing with parents' abilities to make healthcare decisions for their kids. Prop 1 does not allow all of a sudden for young people to go to school and they have one name and one identity in the morning and they come home and now they have a different identity. Like, give me a break. This is what the opposition is saying. The unfortunate reality is that their arguments can be powerful. And so we're in a really tough spot 12 days out. We've done everything possible to try to really emphasize, my friends, they're going to come for us in the final days. Y'all need to get ready. We need to get ready and win this together. But we are at the tail end. And so with your help, I hope, both through your networks, your generosity, and your support, we're hoping that we can close the gap. We're up, but also meeting them at about half of the spend that they're on. So we'll be on TV at about 2 million total. They're spending 4.5. And so at this point, we're doing everything possible to shake down the trees. I have called and talked to and re-engaged every labor union, every major donor, every national foundation, and we have to get this job done. So that is where we are 12 days out. I believe and I know we will win. And also the only reason that we have won these fights all across the country is that our side just had more money. The money at the end of the day makes the big difference. And so eager to answer your questions. happy to talk about the campaign. I see. So there are 3 ways that you can be helpful. One is if you or people in your orbit are able to make a contribution, that is the most important thing. We have to be able to respond to this opposition ad. We expected it would happen. No one believed us that it would happen. And so that is the most important thing. Second, if you consent, you all are deeply connected, very, very networked people and leaders who oftentimes are looked towards to say, how are you voting? Hey, have you heard about this random issue that's on the ballot? I would love to send you a sample email that you can send to your network to say, my friends, election day is 12 days away. I'm doing 400 things. Here's 5 links to get involved. And importantly, flip your ballot and vote yes on Prop 1. That is so important. And third, I would ask that you can use your personal platforms on social media, on anything public that has a following, your organizations, your supporters, to publicly post your support for Prop 1 and drive people to learn more about Prop 1. So communicate individually through your network to make sure people know that this really, really essential measure is on the ballot, and lastly, use your public platform to be able to elevate the fight. I will say, unlike candidate campaigns that we know our friends in 501c3 orbit cannot participate in and are really, really strictly limited, which can be frustrating. Any 501c3 organization that does any lobbying work can absolutely participate to talk about a ballot measure, not just talk about and educate about a ballot measure, but actually to encourage a vote yes or a vote no, vote yes in this case, a vote yes message. That is because the law considers that any conversation encouraging a yes or no vote on behalf of a 501c3 organization is lobbying activity. You're simply lobbying the electorate rather than lobbying an elected official. And so there's quite a bit of flexibility there. It's actually enabled a ton of organizations to plug into this fight.
The New York Immigration Coalition works throughout the state. Have you reached out to them?
Of course, they've been one of our executive committee partners from the very beginning.
What's the link for donating and for getting the sample email?
Great. So I'm gonna, I will send a follow-up to all of you, to both, but the donate link is right here. I will drop it in the chat. And then I will send you a follow-up. I'll drop this here just so you have it handy on this call. And you can send the sample email and get it out, but we'll follow up with just a really simple way. I'll forward you an email that I sent to my network so everybody knows about Prop 1.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. Any other questions?
Sasha,
Okay.
oh, it sounds like folks are ready to get activated.
Yes, I'm so glad always to share space with this dynamic group of people. I'll be honest with you, I'm trying to close $1 million fundraising gap in a very short amount of time. That's the reality that we are facing. And so I'm doing everything that I can. We're calling our friends in labor, in national organizations, funders who still have $5 left in their bank accounts to be able to shake every tree loose. And so every dollar counts. Since these ads have gone up, we've actually been able to raise about $500,000 so since Monday, so that's been tremendous, and I have $1 million left to go. That is my job in the next 12 days, is to be able to get that job done. So to the extent that your supporters, individuals in your networks can say, like, listen, they are coming for us and we have to win this fight. Losing is not an option. That is our job in the next 12 days.
Sasha, you see, we have a very activated, involved, organized, and ready to go group. So I'm grateful that they've all of our board members, both current and former, have made the time this afternoon to hear and listen and respond to this moment. You know, I also feel the pains of this moment because, similarly to what Sasha said, the opposition is already active and responding. Just in my weekend walk this past weekend, I already saw a say no to Prop 1 sign. And in our community, it was focused on saving girls' sports, right? So I think they're finding all different types of angles, approaches to really sort of turn folks off to the truth of what's here. And so truly appreciative to Sasha, who is shared some updates, let folks know where we are right now, but also an incredible amount of resources that are here in our chat that we can also follow up via email to all the folks who were not able to join us today. So they also have these resources available at their fingertips. So I just want to thank the board for continuing to be the fuel in the engine of these actions that are needing to take place right now. We have less than 2 weeks, and there's a really important role that we all can take. And so when I think about the actions moving forward, I think Sasha has already talked about this, which is 1, give. Right? It's so important. There's $1 million left to raise for New Yorkers for Equal Rights to get this action moving. As we all know, media buys, materials, all the things that get folks into this information, know what's happening is important. So give. The other thing is to mobilize and amplify, right? So we are all connected to networks, know friends, families, colleagues, peers who can get active, know this information and amplify this in our social media, our connections, and make sure folks are ready and active to do the third thing, which is to vote, right? So vote 1 on Prop 1. It's important. We need to get other folks to know what this information is about and get ready to respond with dollars and votes to move this in the next 2 weeks. So Brooke has put in our chat also more information. We had a blog post on Prop 1. We've tried always possible to partner with Sasha in New Yorkers for Equal Rights in the coming days to just make sure that this information is pushed forward. There's a lot of important things that are happening right now, but this is incredibly important because we know that New York is always the root to so many of the things that are happening on both a state and national level. So it's really important that we set the tone and be clear that this is action that needs to be taken, not only here in New York, but all across the country. So thank you, everyone. Maria, thank you already for donating because it gets us very much closer to our goal. So thanks again for your time. And Sasha, thank you again for taking the time to meet with us today.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all so much.